Thanks for coming. You're here for the prep for the Design Portfolio Review remote event. And I'll be presenting with Susan Anderson, who's our Associate Director, and she'll be joining us in just a minute. So we're going to be talking about the event, and we're going to be using a lot of the information from our dedicated website, and that's designreview.risd.edu. We'll be sending you emails pretty consistently leading up to the event, which is taking place on the 14th and 15th of this month, March. And it's a remote event once again. So these events will be taking place through video conferencing. We do mention that we prefer using Zoom as the natural choice for RISD, but there will be other versions of platforms that are available that you'll click on as you're going to your various portfolio review meetings. The signups, which will be a big part of tonight's explanation, is taking place on March 8th, next week at 6 p.m. So just one more time, that website is designreview.risd.edu. A lot of what we'll be covering tonight is featured in that website, actually. So our agenda for tonight is to review how you can prepare for the event, how to sign up for portfolio reviews, which again is taking place on March 8th, what to expect when you're meeting with employers or companies or reviewers, how to dress and what to say and what to ask, how to follow up with people after you meet with them, or if you don't get a chance to meet with them, how to follow up with them, because we'll be sharing their contact info with everybody that registers for the event. And we also want to address any questions that you have this evening. So whether that comes at the end, or if you see something that you're curious about, raise your hand, please stop us. We'd love to get into the answer right away. Make sure that you get as much out of this as possible. So I'm going to be turning it over to Susan, who's going to be taking you through one aspect of the website, which is the participating companies list. So this is Susan.
Thanks, Jason. So welcome again, everybody. It's so great to have you all here this evening, and I'm very happy that we have a chance to share the details of this program with you. So as Jason mentioned, we have a dedicated website for the Design Portfolio Review, and that's going to be the go-to for you to check out companies, especially that'll be in attendance. So what we have here is really just kind of a couple of quick screen captures of companies to give you a little taste, a little flavor of who will be attending and what to look for. So when companies register to attend the Design Portfolio Review, we ask them, what are the majors of interest, the RISD disciplines of interest, and we'll include those in your registration information for students to see. So what you're getting a glimpse of at the moment is, just as a quick example of the types of companies that are interested in meeting with students from FAV. Now, that's not the only major they're interested in, but it is one of several for some companies. And the ones that I've noted here are companies that may or may not be familiar names to you. And I just want to make a point of this, because I think the instinct for all of us really is to kind of gravitate to the thing that we know and the company that we know. But in the instance of the design review, I would say you really have the chance to meet with a lot of different types of companies and organizations. So really keep your options open in terms of what you're thinking about when you look at this long list and the types of companies that would be suited to your major. So for FAV, Black Math is a company which is a smaller studio in Boston. DreamWorks, everybody knows DreamWorks. I don't have to explain that. Brand New School is actually another studio in New York and is really focused on, I would say, branding and identity, and also motion design. Big Huge Games, gaming company, and Webtoon, which is again another company you all may be familiar with if you're in illustration or FAV especially, or maybe graphic design. So again, you can come into the website and start doing a little bit of this research now. That would be my recommendation to all of you, because it becomes, in terms of getting prepared for the sign-up process, which will happen very quickly. Jason's going to explain that in detail in a few minutes. But in order to make the most of that time for the sign-up, really understanding the companies that you want to meet with and who they are and what they do before that sign-up process begins is important. So just a couple of quick glances at other companies attending. So for graphic design, again, it's not necessarily that these companies that I'm showing you right now, or the logos for them, I should say, are the only ones for graphic design, or that they're only interested in graphic design students. They are just, again, a quick selection. So Argo Design is one. A little octopus on the top is their logo. Constructive, which is a new company for the design review, a company that has not participated before. Argo has, just to kind of clarify. David and Goliath and Wolf Owens are also companies that have participated in the review in the past. So keep those in mind if you're in graphic design, especially. And again, just a quick glance. You're also seeing these companies grouped not necessarily by discipline only, but also by industry or market or field. So in this case, the bigger market is publishing, and these companies are all involved in that type of work, and also interested in meeting with illustration students. So that's the Bright Agency, which is actually an agency that does look at individual illustrative work from students for purposes of their publications. Chronicle Books, which is again, a book publishing company in San Francisco. Cider Mill Press is another, which is here in the Northeast in Maine, and Disney Hyperion. So again, just a quick glance at one of the websites for one of those. And within architecture, I would say this is probably one of the banner years for architecture. We have a lot of architecture firms and studios participating, so that is a real advantage, especially to students in this discipline. And I really, I'm happy that I know a number of you are from architecture are here this evening, and this is a good thing. You can spread the word to your friends if they haven't awareness of the design review and aren't here this evening. So again, these are firms that are broad ranging in terms of the type of work that they do, their geographic location, the size of their company, their firm, or their studio. And that being said, Dutch East Design is a New York-based company. We do a lot of interior work, interior design work, hospitality, branding. So Dutch East is looking both for architecture students and graphic design students, among others. Fox Architects is a firm in Washington, D.C., and Cambridge 7 is right here in Boston, Perkins and Will in New York. So again, these are companies that we have seen coming to our events in the past. And it is the case with all of these companies and organizations that they are here attending virtually this year, but actually next year we'll have an on-site event. So if you're not graduating this spring, you'll have the advantage of being able to be in person for this program at the convention center, which is a really exciting experience. This year we're doing things remotely one more time. And in that sense, the experience is in some ways a little bit more intimate because you're kind of one-on-one in a Zoom call or on a Zoom screen with the reviewer. But that being said, this is a really terrific opportunity for you to make connections with people, to get both feedback about your work, to learn a little bit more about who they are and what they do, because you can, of course, ask them questions that will lead to that type of conversation. So in the realm of interior architecture, Elkis Manfredi, Hutker Architects, Cohen Pedersen Fox, which is KPF, and Woods Bagot are all firms that focus in particular on interiors. The other thing that I wanted to mention to all of you is that the reviewers who are in attendance for the design review this year and in previous years, and what I would imagine subsequent years, do represent a range of types of positions. So they're designers, they're creative directors, they're sometimes human resource professionals, they might be talent acquisition folks. So people who are involved in some part of the hiring process and or the design process. And out of that group of now 100 or so companies that will be in attendance, about 30% of the reviewers are actually alumni. So I think there's a lot of comfort you can take in knowing that you may be talking with people who have actually had the very RISD experience that you are yourselves as students, and they really do have a real affinity for hiring RISD. It's really the often what we hear when we're talking with companies about the positions they need to fill, and we'll get calls from folks who say, we really just want more RISD people working with us. How can we find those students to apply for our positions? How can we get a hold of them? So if you're feeling a little anxious or a little worried about this event, which would be very natural and normal if you are, I just want to leave you with this thought that the people who are coming here want to meet with you. They want to talk to you. They are excited in learning more about what you're doing. And some of them are folks who've done this work with us for years now, and some of them are alumni. So there's really like a lot of warm receptivity to your time spent with them. So just know that. As I have been saying, within landscape architecture, there are specific firms and studios for folks in that discipline at RISD. So Dan Gordon Landscape is actually a new firm to come to RISD, but does beautiful work. Land Design, again, Cohn Pedersen Fox, and Forms and Surfaces are all companies that have been to the review in the past, both the live on-site version and also the remote version. We do have, I should say, this is probably a slide that I needed to remove. So forgive me. This is left over from last year. So I'm just gonna move past it and go right into apparel and textiles. So again, if there are students in the room from Apparel Textiles, these companies, Echo Design and Phillips Van Heusen, which is PVH, they represent or not represent, but they are the umbrella for Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein. Also Urban, if you are familiar with Urban Outfitters and all the Urban brands, those companies will be represented. Fresh Cut is actually a new company too to the design review. And Julia Zhao, who is a RISD grad from ID, is the person who will be joining us. She did work for another company very similar and has attended the program before, the design review that is, and was excited to be able to come on behalf of this new company, Fresh Cut, that she's working with. So again, just a quick glance. A couple of others, let's see. Yeah. I'm only hesitating because we've had some change and transition this week with companies canceling and also joining. So I can say with complete confidence, Something Special Studios is in attendance this year, and Perception that does feature films is also in attendance. And I was, again, just hesitating to double check myself. Perception has not been to the review, but they are a fantastic company actually for FAV. So just putting that out there. And I think Jason will take over, talk about artworks and all that is related to the sign-up process and things related to that. So thanks for your attention.
For those just joining us, if you wouldn't mind, we're trying to do a check-in for tonight. So if you wouldn't mind grabbing this QR code before we get started. So I'll be reviewing the process of signing up for the event, and that takes place in Artworks, the same system that you use to register for the program if you registered for tonight, or the same program platform that you use to find jobs, to look at our events. And it's also where we take care of everything related to our portfolio review event. So before we get into the specifics of the way that we manage this event, I think it's important for us to do a few meaningful translations. So when we are talking about portfolio reviews in our artwork system, they're referred to as on-campus interviews. Wish that we could change this, and we've begged and pleaded with them to change it, but this is what we've got to work with. And it's actually a pretty standard terminology across the industry. So when we're talking about a time slot for your portfolio review, the way that it's referred to in our works is as an interview time slot. It's not an interview. It's not a job interview. but a feature of the platform is called an interview. And then in order for you to send your resume to the reviewer, whether you have gotten an interview or whether you haven't, you need to apply to an OCI in the system. And when we say apply, we don't mean that you're applying for a job. It's simply just a mechanism for submitting your resume. So we just wanted to make sure that some of these things are clear, because it can cause confusion, because, you know, when we think of interview, we all think of getting a job, and we just want to be really upfront about this. So what can we do to get ready? Because outside of artworks, there are things that we can do. So please do keep in mind that the way that these signups work is that they're first come, first serve. And these times do fill up quickly. You want to create a top list of companies which will help you to speed up the sign-up process. It's kind of like when you go to a grocery store. If you've got your list, you can get in and get out quickly because you know what you're shopping for. If you're just going in and browsing during signups, you won't be maximizing your opportunity, you might say. In advance, it's a great idea to load up the resume that you have in mind to use for portfolio reviews. So when you're signing up to get onto a schedule, it does require mandatory, it requires a resume. So why not get the one that you've got polished up and ready to go and get that uploaded into your profile and all ready. So once again, if you don't do this in advance, and when it's time to sign up, you're going to be like uploading a file, and that won't feel so fun because you'll wish that you could get right into the action and start signing up. Please also do keep in mind that if you need to miss a class, and I think for the most part, we schedule these things to avoid that from happening, but in the rare instances that it does, just please do notify your teacher, your instructor, make sure that you're clear to participate in signups, and also for the portfolio review eventually. I also want to give you a tip. So here I'm showing a screenshot of artworks. And on the left, I've clicked on OCI and job listings. You can see that over here on the left. You can see that with a Toast portfolio review, and this is from last year, so this is just for demo purposes. I've clicked on the heart icon. So as I've seen the OCIs in the system, I was able to click on the heart icon. And we're actually loading these OCIs as we speak. We're almost done. So you can see a lot of OCIs in the system right now. Then if you go and look at OCIs, so you can see along the top, we've selected OCI for OCI and job listings. You can start a filter that says favorite only. So up along the top, there's all these different places to add a filter. So you can add a filter for favorites. And this way, as you can see, I'm looking at my top 3 OCIs that I'm interested in. This is a great way to know what you're going to be looking for when you go to do signups. So it's a great technique. Well, let's go through the process of how this is going to look, because unfortunately, you can't go into the system right now to see what it looks like to sign up. That will be happening on March 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So next week, March 8th. So what it's going to look like, you'll log into Artworks, you normally do. And the URL for Artworks is risd.12, number 12, and then the word 20.com. This uses your single sign-on to get in there. So hopefully this is familiar to most people. And you're going to be looking for companies. So you're going to click on OCI and jobs on the left, and you can click on OCI at the top. And I'll give us a quick demo of what this looks like. So we're going to click on OCI and job listings on the left, and it loads that up. And then at the top, we can click on OCI. There, we're clicking on OCI. And this shows you the OCIs that are available in the system. Oops. Oh, oh boy. Sorry, folks. All right. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to select an OCI that we want to participate with. We rewind that. Sorry, folks. Okay, so when you're going to apply to an OCI, you will select one of the OCIs. So here it's like the test company portfolio review. In the upper right, we can see an apply button. And when we click that apply button, you can see that the system is asking us to load a resume. So if we've already got that resume loaded, we're in really good shape. We don't need to deal with this now. We can just use the pull down to select our resume and we're ready to apply. And so now we hit that apply button on the right-hand side and success. It tells us that we've applied for this OCI, but this is just the first step in the process. And it's also worth noting that as you're doing these applications to the OCIs, we deliberately set a limit for how many OCIs you can apply to. This is because we want to ensure that we give equal access to as many people as possible. So if we limit the OCI's applications, then more people will have a chance to get in on that first night to participate. The next step is booking an interview, or as we like to call it at RISD, a portfolio review. And so picking up where we left off, you can select a time. Now, this would be a representation of the schedule for the evening. This is just a demo. We see all of these blue buttons on the right, which represents open time slots. In reality, what's going to happen is a lot of these time slots will be taken up very quickly as you're going in. So you may only see a few blue buttons or maybe just a couple of blue buttons on the right. Or God forbid, if you don't see any blue buttons, that means that the schedule is full, unfortunately. But you can scroll down the full length of the page to see what other times may be available. But if you see one of those blue buttons, you can click that blue button to select the appropriate time. It asks you to confirm that you're selecting the time slot, and then it tells you that you've had success. You successfully booked that time slot. A couple things to keep in mind. It is possible to book an interview conflict. So you could book 2 different interviews with 2 different companies, both at 6:30 on the first night. Unfortunately, the system doesn't prevent you from doing that. So you definitely want to avoid that from happening. That would steal, it would waste a slot for one of your peers. It would look unprofessional because you would not show for one of your portfolio reviews, which would be a major bummer for the employer. And just to help the process, the Career Center will be monitoring this situation. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, we'll reach out to you directly to let you know, like, hey, you need to resolve this conflict within the hour, because we want to make sure that we provide as much access to students as possible. Now, if you can't find an interview time, please do keep in mind that, as we said, you're limited to 6 applications on the first night. For most people, this is plenty of applications to have, but there are some folks that want to maximize as many interview times as they can get. So if you aren't on a schedule for one of your applications, you can withdraw your application. And here's what that looks like. If you have an application that you want to withdraw, you can click on the application. And at the top here, I'm about to select withdraw the application. Very simple and straightforward. You click that button. It asks if you're sure, and yes, you're sure. It withdraws that application and you earn back one of those applications for the night. So I hope that that's clear. You don't want to like waste one of your chances to get on a schedule, so you can withdraw an application to earn back one of those chances. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Now, the following day, on Thursday, starting at 12 noon on Thursday, we will lift that OCI limit. So you'll no longer have to limit your OCI applications to 6. And this is a great opportunity to do 2 things. If you want to book an additional interview or 2, you can do so on day 2. But also, any companies that you're interested in that have full schedules or that you don't have an appropriate time to meet with them, you can apply to their OCI. And essentially, this is a way of kind of submitting your resume. The Career Center will be taking all applications, whether you're on the schedule or not. We will be delivering them to each reviewer at the companies, and we will be strongly encouraging them to welcome your follow-up post-event, okay? And this is kind of what I described here. So apply to any company of interest, and we will be encouraging them to follow up. The signups close that second night just before midnight. So you definitely want to make sure that you're taking advantage of these application opportunities on Thursday the 9th. If you're looking to find the interviews that you've booked or these portfolio reviews, you can always go into your platform and you can see upcoming meetings, as we can see over here on the right. We'll also be sending email confirmations so that you know all of the interviews that you're signed up for. Does anybody have any questions about the artworks process before we get into some of the aspects of like the experience outside of artworks and the amazing opportunity of talking with people that are professionals? Any questions about artworks? Cool. So how to prepare? Essentially, you want to think about your pitch, like how to make efficient use of this time that you have available to talk to someone that's a professional and to pick their brain and get professional feedback. So consider your goals for the year. You might be getting ready for an internship for the summer, and you're trying to think of ways to improve your portfolio. Or maybe you're coming up on graduation and you're an animator and you're looking for professional grade feedback on your demo reel. Of course, you want to consider like what your passions and key skills are. These are your best assets. You're going to be doing your best work if you're focusing on the things that you're most passionate about. And this preparation allows you to like put your story together and summarize what you have to offer with conviction. You know, you can really say it confidently because you've really thought about it carefully. And practice your pitch. You know, you're in crit all the time with your peers. Pull one of your peers aside and ask them to listen to what you've got. You can also meet with the Career Center. We'd be happy to be a sounding board for you. And ask questions. Questions are a great way to get a lot out of this experience. It's a rare opportunity to be able to talk to a professional outside of a job interview where their guard is down and they're being transparent with you. And this is always a great thing to keep in mind for any interaction professionally. Try your best to be yourself. It may sound corny or it may sound like basic, but if you can be yourself, essentially that's the job that any reviewer or interviewer has, to make you feel comfortable and to allow you to be yourself. They want to get a sense of what you're like to work with. And that's where your best ideas are going to come from, when you feel comfortable enough to be honest. So what's it like? We all know what it's like because it's Zoom, it's video conferencing. So we're used to this process. We have many different platforms that are available to companies based on their preference. We really encourage them to use Zoom because it's something that we all know well, but it could be on one of these other platforms, and accessing the platform is very easy through Artworks. You have one link to click and it gets you right into it. Also, sometimes someone may be thinking like, do I need to download the Microsoft Teams client, or am I going to have to install WebEx? You will, in all of these cases, you will most likely be able to use a web-based client. So it won't involve installing any software. You should have an option to just go in through Chrome or Firefox or Safari or whatever you're using and just log into your session. What to wear? You know, we are still being seen, so it's a great idea to consider dressing with conviction, dressing in a manner where you show that you care. You can dress creatively. Some people may translate this as being more formal. Whatever it means, just dress intentionally. Show that you care for your meeting. And with Zoom etiquette, I feel like a lot of us have a grasp on this pretty well, but it's worth just making sure, taking that extra time to make sure that you've got your camera and video setups working good. You wipe the smudge off of your camera on your laptop. Your Wi-Fi is strong. If you're going to be screen sharing, just give it a test. Make sure that that's working well. Find a quiet place with reduced noise and a reduced background, you know, a simple background. Good lighting to improve the image so that you can make that connection with people. And try to silence all notifications that you can. You want to try to make good use of this short period of time that you have with a reviewer. How to present. We've got 15 minutes to work with. So you want to really think about that as you're going into this. You want to think about it in terms of how you pace yourself when you're introducing yourself, when you consider presenting your portfolio. Instead of thinking, I'm going to show all 27 projects that I have. Of course, that's never going to fly. We've got 15 minutes to work with. So you probably want to prioritize, like, project 1 is going to be this one. And then project 2 is going to be the second piece that I'm really proud of. And if there's time, here's project 3. Think about this in advance. Think about the projects that are going to be most compelling to the company that you're meeting with. You might even mix it up if you've got like one project that's good for one company and a different one that's good for someone else. This is great stuff to think about in advance so that you maximize your 15 minutes of rainbow time. So a great way to start this off, you don't want it to be awkward and like, oh, should you go first or should I go first? Just come right on and say, like, I'm prepared to present my portfolio. Would you prefer to drive? Would you like to ask me questions, or would you like me to get started? Let's get right into it. Get right into your introduction. This is a great courtesy because some reviewers will be psyched to just sit back and go along for the ride, and others may have something in mind. Maybe they checked out your resume in advance and they actually want to see one of your projects. Cool, let them have control, follow their lead, but at least give them the option. If you're showing something with audio, make sure you click that button to share computer audio, just so you're not like fumbling around. Like if you have audio in your work, that should be like on a sticky note or something to remind you, because we don't want any, you know, like we don't want you to miss out on time. And as I mentioned, look for areas of similarity between your work and theirs. Any reviewer, or if they're really scouting for talent, and a lot of these folks are probably thinking about recruiting, maybe for the future, maybe making leads that they can follow up next year. If you can do the work for them and show the areas of connection, that's a great advantage. You're making their life much easier, and it gives you more control over the situation. So some simple questions to ask. These are universal questions. They're pretty open-ended. They're designed to get this person talking so that you can learn as much as possible. So what are the top skills you seek in applicants? What's something that makes an applicant stand out? That could really help you set yourself apart from the competition, especially for large popular companies that have thousands of applications each year. Is there anything you'd recommend I add to my portfolio? This question's awesome because if they give you anything that you want to work on, what a great follow-up to let them know, hey, I took what you said to heart and I've developed this piece with you in mind. That's very impressive. They'll be impressed by that. Where do you post openings when you have them? Or perhaps could I keep in touch with you to find out what might be coming up in the future? And I'd like to send a thank you and follow up in the future. What email address may I use to reach you? This is kind of sneaky. You're trying to offer them a thank you note. Isn't that nice? But wouldn't it be great to get their email address? Now you've got somebody that you can reach out to in email, even better than LinkedIn. So we've got a little game, kind of a lame game, quick game here. Question, true or false? Raise your hand if it's true. The only way to connect with a popular company like Meta, Disney, or Google Creative Lab is by getting on their review schedule. Is that the only way to get through to one of these major companies? No, it's not. As I said, we provide all the information for all of the companies so that you'll have names that you can follow up with after the event. We've heard many times of people having even better meetings outside of portfolio review because they were persistent, they reached out, they got creative, they sent work their way, and they managed to get an even longer meeting. So please don't despair if you're not on someone's schedule. Another one for our fantastic game. Meeting with a company that may not be my favorite can still provide me with extremely helpful insights. True or false? Yes, these people have volunteered their time. They've paid money to meet with you. They may be in the industry of interest. Maybe they're not your favorite company. Well, why not be super transparent with them and ask them for some feedback about what would you look for in a candidate? You know, maybe you'd be too shy to mention this type of question to your favorite company. But for this company, maybe you can get some great feedback that's going to help you elsewhere. You also, this happens many times, you may be delightfully surprised by the company that you're meeting with. You might be surprised by their work, by their answers, by their interest in you. Take advantage of this opportunity. Don't just have star power and go for the top companies. Like, consider everyone in the industry that you're considering. And follow up. I know this is being said a lot, but follow up is key, really valuable and important. Send a thank you note or an email or both. Connect on LinkedIn for sure. And if they maintain an Instagram account and you're active on Instagram with your own work, follow them on Instagram and start engaging with them. Keep in touch through email, through LinkedIn. Like, don't let it be just a follow-up. Follow up maybe every other month, or if it's recruiting season, follow up with them every month. Check in with them, see how they're doing, give them feedback about their product offerings or a new film that you saw of theirs. Share some work in progress from studio. You're making all this cool stuff that you have to share. Share it in your follow-up and keep in touch. And for networking, of course, you want to reach out to employers who participated, and especially if they're RISD alums, those will be easy candidates that should be more welcoming to you than the average person out in the world. Share your enthusiasm for their work. You know, we've heard from some pretty famous companies like Pixar, I think, came and told us once that they had a student that said that they were really excited to meet with the makers of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Wrong film, not Pixar. You would think that everybody knows what the Pixar movies are. Show them that you know what movies they are or what products they offer. Show them that you're engaged with their work. It does mean something to them. They don't get tired of hearing it. Tell them about your related interests in your work and inquire about internships or full-time opportunities, depending on your scenario. So what do we have here? What is this, a spreadsheet? Oh, it's a spreadsheet that we provide on the participating companies page. It's coming up on March 16th. You will be able to see every company representative, their name, their title. If there's an email and artworks, that's column E. If they're an alum, column F and G. We lay it all out there for you. And this is in the RISD enterprise, so it's only accessible to students and alums. So we definitely want you to take advantage of this. It's not ready quite yet. The URL's at the bottom, and Susan was talking about this page a lot tonight as she was going through the participating companies page. If you want to see a preview of what this looks like, go to last year's participating companies page. You can see the link. It's up there right now. You may even be able to see representatives that are coming this year who also participated last year. We have a lot of repeat reviewers. So this is like gold. When I show students that haven't seen this before, or even alums, this is an amazing launch pad for your network and getting ready for graduation and going professional. So if I'm looking up somebody such as Alejandra here from Apple, I could click on that connect button. Let's say that Alejandra participated in this event. And on my introduction, I could say hello. Thanks for participating in the portfolio review. I'm a huge fan of Apple, and although I was unable to meet with you, so Apple, very popular, the schedule filled right up. So I didn't get on their schedule, but here I am trying to connect after the event. I'm hoping to connect on LinkedIn. Thanks for considering. This is step one. It's the baby step. And then if LinkedIn, if they accept your connection, LinkedIn lets you know. Now you've got the second step to take, which might be like to thank them and inquire about upcoming opportunities, or if they have any availability to meet, or if they'd be interested in checking out your portfolio or reel, any company. This is the way it works on LinkedIn. So we've covered a mountain of info tonight. I'm sure that we didn't cover everything though, so definitely available for your questions. You're also welcome to take advantage of our drop-in hours. So we've got Monday and Fridays 9 to 1, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday 11 to 1. You can just walk in and meet with us in the Career Center right over there. And we can open it up for questions. Common questions.
Yes.
Let's see.
So if there are no questions, I have lots of other details to share with you if you would like. So I will begin, and if you start to leave, that will tell me that you're ready to go. So, you know, I'm sensitive to your time too. But as Jason was presenting to you, a couple of things came to mind that I did want to share. So for one thing, we do a survey of all the folks who participate, the designers, the HR talent folks, as reviewers to the event after the event is over. And we ask them a lot of questions, and they're usually really responsive and do give us great feedback about the program. So a couple of things come to mind that I think are important points to share with you as students who are going into this kind of experience of meeting with reviewers in the next couple of weeks. So I think that you may not know this directly, but when we talk to employers about attending the design portfolio review, we say this is a chance to meet RISD students, see their amazing work, and have a chance to get a sense of kind of what their interests are, where they're headed creatively, and for you to identify talent that you may want to follow up with in the future. You don't have to have a position available when you attend the design review. It's not a job fair per se. It's a portfolio review. So I bring this up because I think some reviewers are confused, even though with all the communication we do about what this event is. Some may think that it is actually a job fair, and they'll be asking you, what kind of position would you seek with us, that sort of thing. Or some students may have misinterpreted, and they'll say to a company, so I'm really looking for a job and I'm wondering what you have available. So I'm just kind of cautioning you to stay away from the focus of this being like about a job or about an internship per se. And I think Jason has made this really clear, but I just wanted to underscore it to say that it's easy to get confused about what this event can be, depending on who you are. So the point Jason made about you having your agenda, about what you would like to say to a reviewer, the types of work that you would like to show them based on the work you feel is your strongest representation of what you're doing creatively. It doesn't have to be a completed, finished, perfectly, wrapped up project, but something that you're really passionate about. And I really want to emphasize that, like the work that you care about a lot, that you have been thinking about a lot, is probably going to be pretty easy for you to present to, because you're really committed to it. So there's, conversation that will probably come easily for you around that work. The idea behind that conversation is not only to get feedback about the work, but to also probe the questions Jason mentioned. Like, so this, I'm imagining myself in the middle of a review with somebody. I know like my time is soon to be up, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. And I want to be sure I'm going to say thank you so much for the time you spent with me. This has been really valuable. Now, I know that you may or may not have opportunities up and coming, but when you do have positions, where do you post them? And how would I, what's your recommendation for me to apply? When would that be appropriate? So that's a very different approach to asking about that kind of thing versus, so, what jobs do you have available? So you just want to be conscious of what the event is about and conscious of the fact that all reviewers may not have positions available. And really, this is about making the connection. Jason also made a really good point about the fact that I think his words were like their guard is down, the reviewer's guard is down. And I would say the reviewer's really interested in just getting to know who you are. And because it is not an interview in the formal sense, you don't have to worry about I'm being evaluated. This is about consideration of me for a position. And I'm being looked at, my work is being looked at with that kind of view. It really is mostly about getting advice and feedback. And probably the number one question that I always talk to students about is one that Jason mentioned, which is, can you tell me what's missing? If I wanted to apply to you in the future, what would you recommend that I do to improve on what I have? And that's a question that's really hard to get answered outside of an event like this. You might have success with, I'm thinking of other scenarios where it's a little bit easier. If you have a guest critic coming into your studio and you have some time after the more formal involvement with the class to actually approach that person and ask for that kind of feedback in the future from them. That's, again, you're kind of face to face, you're in the moment, you can ask that kind of question. But this event is really built around the idea of you becoming fully aware of what the possibilities might be and what you can do to make yourself a strong applicant in the future. The other I want to say a priority for us in the Career Center with this event is that you have exposure, that your work gets exposure, that you have a chance to have these conversations. And to Jason's point also, if you're not on a schedule with a company, but you did submit an application to them on the second day, they're going to see your material. They may glance at it, they may spend time with it. We don't know, we can't control that. But to Jason's other point too, we are very, very committed to following up with employers, to encouraging them to think of you, to take a closer look at your work. We post that list of everybody who's been in attendance and the emails and artworks if they have them, so that you can also do that kind of follow-up. And though this may feel maybe a little bit out of your comfort zone, the reality is this is a really effective way ultimately to find the connections that lead to internships and jobs in ways that are important for you to know about and to have practice with and to become versed in, so that when you are in a job search, you feel fully prepared for how to do that. So just a couple of thoughts that I definitely wanted to share before we concluded. But I do want to ask if there are any other questions that you have about anything. Yes. Yeah. Hi.
I want to ask, considering the time limit that we have to be adjusted,
Mhm.
is it recommended that we show them our products from our portfolio website or by making slides?
It's a really good question. So just for everybody, in case you didn't hear, question is, in the limitation of a 15-minute time frame, would you recommend going to a portfolio website or sharing a slide deck? And I think the choice is really yours. It really depends on what your comfort level is and how you feel most at ease about presenting. So that being said, Jason mentioned, get your resume ready, make sure it's uploaded to your profile and artworks, make sure that you have a link to your work on your resume, because when an employer sees that, chances are very good they'll scan the resume, click on the link. So if they're clicking on a link to your website portfolio, they're going to have that. They may or may not see it, but they're going to have it on your resume. So in my view, if a slide deck is your preference, that's great because they have a link to your work. The end of your deck might have the URL link to your portfolio. That question at the conclusion of your time with the reviewer is, of course, the gratitude Jason mentioned. Thank you so much for taking the time with me. This has been incredibly helpful. I would be happy to send this deck to you and share it with you. Is there an email I can use to do that? So assuming they give you their yes, again, it's another quick thank you through the email. Here's the deck that I mentioned I would send to you. And here's the link to my portfolio online as well. So you just have to kind of think about what are the best ways for you to take whichever option you're going to go with and make the most of it in the moment. And also know that if you can stay in touch with that person and continue to share the work in the other format that you didn't use for the design review, you likely can make good use of that too. Yeah. I don't think that reviewers have an expectation either way. I think what they do expect is that, to Jason's earlier points, that you're prepared to talk them through your work and that you are greeting them with that level of professionalism. Hi, my name's Susan. I'm a student enlisted in that department, and I'm this year in school, and I'm excited to share my work with you, and on you go with that. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
Send to the people that banks cannot send like out samples or
Yeah, okay. So Jason, you have a thought and share on that?
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's a great question. So the question was, what can you share before the event? Is it only the resume or is there anything else? The portfolio sample is an optional asset that you can upload to your profile and that you can submit along with your OCI. We say it's optional because we know how busy everyone is and you shouldn't feel like you have to make a portfolio sample, but if you wish to make one, you can upload it.
So just to clarify that, Jason is referring uploading to Artworks, to your Artworks profile, and that's not like sending directly to the employer or the person who's going to be meeting with you. That being said, and Jason, I want your opinion on this too. Because we were showing you the reviewer list from last year, which you can all see, you could make some educated guesses. Argo Design, I said, they've been here in years past. And if Argo is a company of interest to you, I would just check out the past participating reviewer lists and see who came from Argo. That person or who attended may or may not have an email on Artworks. They're probably on LinkedIn. So if your hope is to meet with somebody from Argo this year, you could reach out to them on LinkedIn. You don't need to have a resume to do that or portfolio or any of that, really. You need a LinkedIn profile to do that. But your outreach to Argo, the designer you think who may be coming to the design review this year, could happen in advance of you attending. So the tone of that message would be similar in some ways to the one that Jason shared to the person at Apple. So, hi, Susan. I'm a student at RISD in the graphic design department. And I was excited to discover you attended the design portfolio review at RISD in the past. I understand Argo is participating again this year. I hope that I'll have the chance to meet with you at the event. All right. So you're kind of setting it up to have this person become interested in the fact that you know who they are and you are from RISD and this event is something that they're going to attend potentially. And you're looking forward to connecting with them. So that type of, like, your question made me think about this, because you can't really email resume and portfolio to people just yet. But as a kind of a first step into making a connection, you can certainly reach out on LinkedIn beforehand if you have the time. That's not a have to, obviously. It's just another kind of way to strategize about making a connection. Do you have anything to add to that, Jason? Thanks. Okay. Other questions, other thoughts? So I guess what I do want to say maybe in conclusion is that we as a Career Center staff are fully aware that these kinds of events really stir like the stress pot and can make for a lot of just like anxiety around how's that sign up process work again? What if I don't get on a schedule that I really wanted, or any schedule that I thought I could achieve, have the chance to be on? And I just want to leave you with a thought that this is not like the only way to, Jason's lame game is like, points this out. Like, it's not the only way for you to make a connection. It is a good way for that to happen, which is obviously why we do it. But we want to hear from you, either during the event if you're having any difficulty or feeling, stressed in any way about the experience that you're having. Our staff is in the office on Zoom together, waiting for whatever happens to come our way with your questions and concerns, and or you're like, you're so happy you just have to tell somebody else. We've had students come into the Zoom space and say, I just had an amazing review. I wanted to, or I don't know what's going on. The reviewer's not there. What do I do now? So just to say, we're here to support you in that moment, long-term, beyond the design review, actually. So that being said, we do have, I think Jason mentioned the drop-in advising that we do prior to, do it all semester long, but especially are considering prior to the design review. So you can drop by for a 15-minute meeting. You don't have to sign up for that in advance. You can just come by the office 9 to 1, Monday, Friday, 11 to 1. Thank you. I can never keep it straight. So I'm glad there's a slide here. We're just always around. That's the thing of it. But a quick question about anything, or you can make a 30 or 45-minute appointment to really go through like the nitty-gritty of what you're trying to do with design review this year. Yeah, question.
What's the success rate of the job that has?
So based on participation in design review, what has student success been in landing an internship or a job?
The COVID changed all stuff.
Yeah. It's a really very good question. And I think I can only answer in a general way with respect to that. So we do a survey of alumni a year after graduation, and we ask them a bunch of questions. And we also ask them, where are you working? How did you find that position? And so on and so forth. So I haven't seen the survey results from the last one that we did yet, but I do know that students may not be made, they may not get an internship offer the day of or evening of the portfolio review, but we know that students are working at these companies as interns over time. So that tells me that there's success there. I couldn't, quantify that very specifically, but what I didn't say, but is also part of this whole equation, is that the companies that are participating are companies that, for one, we as staff have identified as being great companies for students to work for, because other students have worked there and told us that. And that is how they got invited in the first place long ago. And then every summer, this summer was an amazing year for internships. So we're over 400 students doing internships. Normally it's around 350 or something like that. So we comb through that whole list of places where students worked as interns, and we selectively invite some of those companies to attend this program. So where I was saying this company is new, they're new because a student had interned there. So again, I just want to show you that there's a relationship here, even though I can't say, you know, X% of students attended the design review, or 500 students attended the design review, and these 500 got internships in these places. Interestingly though, like this is very curious, and I don't know that I even have mentioned it much in the office, but I said, you know, over 400 students in internships. And if I look back at Internship Connect from the prior year, over 400 students participating in that program. Are they the same 400 that were at Internship Connect and now in internships? There's a percentage of them that are. I don't know what it is, but we know that these programs allow students to build the relationships that lead to those kinds of outcomes. So I just, you know, say take full advantage, try and, you know, prepare as much as you can, as busy as you are. The preparation will go a long way for you. And do not forget that literally the Career Center is right over there. And we're here to support your success. And we want to, you know, be here to help you.